My name is Henry Miller Pigg. I was born in Mooresville, North Carolina. Lived in Huntersville. Graduated from high school at North. And was living at home until Patsy and I got married. My dad owned a service station in Huntersville. That was back during the draft, and people were getting draft cards and getting inducted into the Army. I got a draft card because I lost my scholastic deferment because I was in college, because my dad had an automobile accident and almost got killed, and I dropped out of college to run the service station for him till he got recovered. When I did that, I lost my scholastic deferment, and I was in line to get drafted. I called my cousin, Myron Pigg, at Air National Guard in Charlotte, explained to him what was going on, and he said, well, come on out to the Air National Guard this weekend, we'll get you signed up. And I said, well, what about the draft board? He said, I'll take care of the draft board. So I went out that weekend and they signed me up, swore me in, and I was in the Air National Guard. When we came back from Baltimore, my dad worked he was too old to be drafted in the Second World War. So he moved with a couple of his brothers to Baltimore, Maryland, and they worked at various jobs. My dad got a job with Bethlehem Fairfield shipyards. And Bethlehem at that time during the war was building Liberty ships, small cargo ships, small fast cargo ships to get goods transferred from the United States to Europe. And they were launching one about every Sunday. And we went down several Sundays and watched them launch the ships. But my dad was a high pressure steam pipe fitter. And he was working sometimes 2 shifts. He had a friend who drove a car and had a 4-door car that was in the parking lot. And my dad would work 1 shift and he'd go and grab a few hours sleep and then work the next shift. Of course, a lot of that was time and a half overtime. And pay for Fairfield shipyards was good anyway. And we were living in a small 3rd-story walk-up apartment, and my mom was up there by then, and we spent about 3 years in Baltimore. The house that my mom and dad were renting when we moved to Baltimore, they were still renting. The landlord lived right next door, so he was taking care of everything for us. And when we moved back, my dad was looking around for something to do, and there was a little wooden service station just south of Huntersville, close to the Mecklenburg TB Sanatorium. And my dad bought that and the property, and was running that little wooden service station, and was doing quite well. Till somebody broke in one night. The only thing they got was change in the change drawer, but they set the building on fire when they left. That was a real piece of work. It was a wooden service station, had a coal heater to keep it warm, and out in the front they had 2 gas pumps, regular and high test. The gas pump had a 5-gallon globe on top of it, and there was no electric pump. You pumped it up with a lever, and as you pumped it up, you could see the gasoline coming up in the glass globe. Then when somebody wanted 5 gallons of gas, then you just emptied that globe, that was 5 gallons. But then if they wanted to fill it up, you had to pump more to get more gas in the globe so it'd run down and go in the car. And all of that burned down. Of course, he had insurance, and with the insurance money, they bought 3 acres just below, adjacent to it, and built a service station in 1949. The service station is still there, by the way. It's got a gun shop in it now. And right across the road was the rest of the 3 acres, right across Highway 21 at that time. And in 1951, he and my mama built the brick house that you see in all the pictures with the pink granite. They lived there until my dad died. Well, Mom died, and then my dad died. And Doris got the house and she sold it. And to the people that now run Dearness Gardens in Huntersville. I think it was them that sold it to the state of North Carolina, and they built an interchange right there and put one end of a bridge right where the house used to be. They gutted the house and then burned it. A lot of good memories. But the store is still there. When Pop died, the deal was I got the Ranchero, and he told me when I got through with it, it was supposed to go to Eddie, and now I guess it goes to Adam. So when he died in '98, the garage ended right here at this wall, and a year or so later we added the second 18-foot garage door over there, and we put the Ranchero in the second garage over there, and it stayed there from about 1999 until 2017 when we took it up to Man-Made Legends to have it restored. It took 5 years to get it restored. It was also during the pandemic. Any kind of parts were extremely hard to find, and if they did have them, getting them shipped to you was another nightmare because everything else was jam-packed and loaded. Trucks weren't running that much because of the pandemic. Deliveries were terrible. We sent the front and the rear bumper off from the Ranchero to get it re-chromed. And the company had moved from Florida up to North Carolina, up in the mountains of North Carolina. We shipped it to them over there, thinking we'd get it back quick because it was North Carolina. We asked them when it would be delivered and they laughed at us. They said, "We've got a year's supply of work right now. You'll get it when you get it and when we get around to it." It took about a little over a year, but they gave it back to us, and they did an outstanding job on doing the re-chroming for the front and the back bumper. And part of the other chrome trim on the truck is part of it's stainless steel and part of it's chrome. The parts that were chrome, we sent them off and had them re-chromed. The parts that were stainless steel, we polished them and buffed them. But because it was stainless steel, it anodizes over time and turns gray and chalky. Once we got it polished and buffed, then we had to send it off to get it anodized so that it would keep the chrome looking shiny. All the chrome on the car is original except one piece. And we didn't add anything extra as far as chrome, and we didn't take anything off the car. So all the chrome on the car is original except for one piece. Front bumpers, grill, everything. I don't have the bill of sale. I don't know what happened to that, but I do have a receipt for the temporary license plate that he paid for at the Ford dealership in Huntersville, and they put the little paper tag on the back, and that's dated early January 1959, and it's been in the family for 65 years. So Almost everybody in the family has some kind of history with the Ranchero. I was 23 years old when Pop bought the Ranchero. Patsy and I dated it in the Ranchero before we were married. He drove it like a pickup truck. We had built the service station down there, and he needed a pickup truck sometimes, and he needed a car sometimes. So this was what the marketing department of Ford Motor Company actually was advertising. Their advertisement was for people who needed a truck and a car. And their advertisement was haul hay in it on Saturday and drive it to church on Sunday. So it was a dual purpose. And of course, it's still the same way. People are spending, $65,000, $75,000 now on pickup trucks, and they haul hay in them on Saturday and drive them to church on Sunday. Ford was way ahead of its time in 1959 with that, or 1957 actually, with that concept, because in 1957 they started building the Ranchero, and they built the big body Ranchero like like ours for 57, 58, and 59. Then in 1960 they stopped building on the big car and went to a Falcon Ranchero, and then later on a Torino Ranchero, and then stopped making it about 77 or 78. It was an everyday truck. He hauled garbage to the garbage dump. He had a boat. He had a trailer hitch put on it, and the boat's sitting right down there. He found out that trying to pull his boat out of the boat ramps at Lake Norman, this was when Lake Norman had just first been built, and the boat ramps were real rough. And at the end of the boat ramp where they had stopped pouring concrete, if you backed your boat off the concrete, it would just sink up in the mud at the end of the ramp. And it was almost impossible to get it to pull it out, because by then you had the weight of the boat on the trailer, and you were trying to come up over that square corner with the wheels to get it out. And he blew the head gaskets in the original motor, which was a 292, and he and a guy that worked for Caterpillar in Charlotte. The guy that worked for Caterpillar was a mechanic for Caterpillar, and one of their salesmen had just wrecked a new 63 or 64 Ford station wagon, a company car, and they took the 390 out of the wrecked station wagon and put it in the Ranchero. He didn't have much trouble pulling the boat out after that. I worked on the car a good bit. The wiring was always a nightmare, and even more of a nightmare was the turn signals. You had to take the steering wheel off the steering column to get to the little compartment where the turn signals were. That was a poorly designed system. Had little tiny springs in it, looked like almost watch springs, and they were forever breaking. I worked on the turn signals. I didn't get to drive the truck much between the time Pop died and the time that we had it rebuilt, because I was working on it. Different things, the steering. The steering wheel had a tremendous amount of play in it. I finally got that out, and there was another electrical nightmare in there too. I finally found that and got that straightened out. And I did drive it some, very limited driving before we decided to have it rebuilt. When Pop died and Doris was in charge of the estate, Pop had left us some money. We sold the property where the lake was. We had a 3-acre lake on about 15 acres of land. And a housing developer was interested in the land and the lake. Doris sold them the land where the lake was, and that gave us some money, Doris and I. And I invested that money in some stocks and was very fortunate that it paid some pretty handsome dividends. It had increased about a third between the time Pop died in 1917. I thought, what better use of Pop's money than to rebuild Pop's truck? So that's what we decided to do. Adam and I went around and visited some people who did restorations, and we decided on Man-Made Legends up in Mooresville. Very pleased with them. And as you can see, they did an outstanding job. Took them 5 years, but 2 years of that was pandemic, so you can't really count all of that. They worked nights, weekends, overtime, everything else working on this. They took a very personal interest in this truck. And I think if you look at it, and a lot of people who know cars have looked at it, and they say that it is extremely well done, extremely well done. Randy looked at it for about an hour. A very good friend of ours who is a mechanic, and he was looking for flaws, for screw-ups, for anything he could find that was wrong with it. And when Randy got through, he said, "I can't find anything." And coming from Randy, I thought that was a pretty good compliment. They delivered it on Friday of Mother's Day weekend last year. So we've had it a year last Mother's Day. Man-Made Legends, and I'll have to give them credit for this. Man-Made Legends said, when it leaves here, I don't want you to have to come back every 2 or 3 days with something wrong with the car. He said, we're gonna keep it, we're gonna drive it, we're gonna run it. When you take it home, we want it to be at home, and you not have to keep running back up here with fix this and fix that and whatever. So they probably kept it 2 or 3 months longer than the car would have been drivable and ready. But I'll have to say this for them, they did an outstanding job. In 1959, it didn't have power steering, it didn't have power brakes, it didn't have air conditioning, it didn't have a burglar alarm, it didn't have a backup camera. Now it's got all of that, air conditioning, power steering, power brakes, power steering, disc brakes. All 4 wheels of the Ranchero originally were drum brakes. And if you saw a red light 2 blocks away, you better start getting ready to stop, because you almost had to stand on the brake pedal to get it to stop. This truck is heavy. The license plate is taxed for 4,000 pounds. That's heavy for a car in today's market. And that's because it's all metal and it's all steel. I wouldn't have it any other way. We had a young fella and his wife stopped to talk to us at the school we went to, the Webb Street. They had a car show. We took the Ranchero over there and got a best interior. There was a young fella and his wife stopped to talk to us at great length about, they were looking for a project car to rebuild or restore. And I told them, I said, the only advice I can give you nowadays is buy something that's still made out of steel, because unless you yourself are skilled in fiberglass, in another 10, 15, 20 years, all these plastic cars, the sun and the time, they're just gonna age out. That stuff's gonna break and crack, and you won't be able to do anything with it. I said, if you're gonna buy something that's made out of steel. And he said, I hadn't even thought about that. But he said, you're right, you know. All of the people who know cars walk around and they look under the hood and they say, yeah, okay. And then they come back and they look under the back end. Their question is, this isn't factory, is it? And the answer is, no, it's not factory. The guys at Man-Made Legends really pulled this one out of their hat. I had not expected that at all, and we had not talked about it. I went up there to look one day and they had it raised up. What makes it unique is that the original floor bed of the bed of the pickup truck was bolted down. It had about, I don't know, I hadn't counted them, 30-some bolts around it. When they were restoring it, they took all those bolts out and they were going to finish under there, which they did. And the reason that piece underneath the original floorboard of the bed was in such good shape was because of that big piece of steel that Pop had put in there to give it the weight. And he hauled all kind of junk in there. And when it was snowing, he would throw a couple of those big pink granite rocks in the back to give it even more traction. And it didn't skin anything up because of the big piece of steel there. So the original bed that's in the truck is unique in that it is undented, unscratched, unscraped, nothing. And it was protected by that big piece of shields. The whole thing is unique because they only built 3 years in the big body style, and then they went to the Falcon Ranchero, and it was a little bitty thing. And then later on the Torino Ranchero, they never built the big Ranchero again. So it was only built 3 years, and in 1959 they only built 14,300 of them. Most of them were used up. They were farm trucks, and they got driven down across muddy fields, and they had hay hauled in them. The body panels for the cars during the 50s weren't that thick, and they rusted out a lot. Then they got crushed for what little bit of steel they had left. So you see a Ranchero out on the road, it's a very unique thing. And to see one that the condition that this one's in, because it was always kept in the garage at the service station. We had a grease rack, and it was a roll-up door like this. And every night, Parks, the guy that worked for us, would pull the Ranchero on the grease rack and pull down the door. So it was garaged its entire life. It's always been in a garage. We've gotten Pastor Awards, which is next to Best of Show. And we've got Best Interior. We've gotten one Mayor's Choice up in Stanley. And when we took it to Mount Holly, we got Best Classic. We got first place in all the cars, and then got Pastor's Choice. We got 3 trophies in that one show. A lot of middle-aged people at a car show will walk up and say, "What in the world is that? You know, what is that?" They've never seen anything like it.
So, last question, what is the future for this car?
It's right where it's gonna be. Well, when I'm through with it, Eddie gets it. And when Eddie gets through with it, Adam gets it, as far as I know right now. Pop told me if I ever sold it, he'd come back and haunt me.
What do you think Pop would say if he saw the car today?
You'd be amazed. He would be amazed because it's as close to factory perfect as it could get right now. Man-Made Legends, I'll have to give them credit. I don't have to blow their horn. They did an outstanding job, When you enter a car show, they said, what are their outstanding features? and I tell them the interior and the paint, and I wish you could jack it up and look at it, because it's just as pretty on the bottom as it is on the top. It's totally unique because of this, and it was in great shape before we had it restored, because it had always been garaged. The paint was good. It was black originally, and we put another black paint job on it, which is a Ford color, the Ford Tuxedo Black. And right now, if the sun's not shining on it, it looks black. But when the sun shines on it, it sparkles. It really, really sparkles. It just jumps out at you. People are amazed at the paint job. If Eddie and Adam take care of it, hopefully it'll be in the family another 65 years. I would be very happy if it was.